AI is not replacing underwriters or claims examiners and adjusters. Yet anyone that you may hear that tells you that it is, either they're naive about insurance or they're trying to sell you something. But AI it's fundamentally changing what those roles focus on, and it's increasing their effectiveness at unprecedented levels.
Welcome to the Talking AI podcast, where we talk AI with both experts in the field and early adopters. I'm your host, Matt Page, and we're here to demystify AI for you so you can get some value from it. Let's talk some AI. Insurance is one of those industries everyone knows could use a little bit of change, but few are willing to actually disrupt it. And today's guest is doing exactly that. So we have Jake Sloan, VP of Global Insurance at Appian, is leading the change in modernizing things like underwriting and claims through agentic AI and building systems that don't just automate work, but actually think alongside people. And we're going to unpack how he's approaching AI in one of the most complex, risk-sensitive industries, what pitfalls he's seeing firsthand, from hallucinations to data obsession, and why real transformation starts with purpose-built, domain-specific AI, not just a bunch of hype. But welcome to the show, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I love this whole idea of very purpose-built, domain-specific things, because everybody sees the flashy OpenAI just launched their
Yes.
new general purpose agent, but there's a lot more to be had in the domain-specific stuff.
There is. I like that insurance is all around us, whether it be your person, your vehicle, your property. It's something we all live every day.
It really is. That is the truth. And Appian has been around for a while. So since 1999, I was actually doing a bit of research
26
before
years.
the pod. Yeah. And it's crazy to think about how far away 1999 actually is now, but it's a whole nother topic. But you've been doing, Appian in general has been doing this process automation before it was cool, known as the process company. What are the learnings, the parallels do you see from this traditional process automation, RPA, versus what we're seeing now with this agentic AI that's coming in on the scene? Like, what's different about
absolutely. No, it's the progression, if you will, and the evolution of it, right? Our four founders of Appian are still very much hands-on, and I hear stories, of course, wasn't there when they founded it, yet I've been working with them now 8 years as an employee, 3 years prior to that as a customer. And we see how the industry has evolved from BPM, case management, and then RPA, and the promises as far as what we didn't deliver, maybe that fell short from what RPA had expected from the business case. What I'm excited about most, and where we are at very, very quickly, is the most significant, I believe, inflection point within the industry since digitization began. And so when you think about how interesting it is, how most insurers they aren't failing because of the tech, they're really struggling because they're trying to apply, say, general AI solutions. And you hit it at your open, like the latest GPT model is out. It's a great search engine. It does really cool things, but it falls short as it relates to highly specialized processes for, say, underwriting claims for insurers.
Yeah, totally. And I think the other side of it too, that I always go back to, is obviously AI, generative AI, it's probabilistic in nature, right? But if you think of traditional RPA, you're having to specify every single thing that's happening in this process for it to execute correctly. And now you've been given this like magic gift. I'm assuming it feels like a magic gift that maybe it can bite you as well, but that can actually make decisions based on context.
Yes.
And what does that look like in terms of how you think about integrating this new capability into like the existing world of RPA? What is that like?
No, and you took me back that memory lane there, right? So I remember as an operations leader for a large insurer, we had RPA, and the accelerated, we started with SQL databases and access. And if you look at RPA, when your desktop would log out, now imagine you have, and the bot would stop and nobody had eyes on it. We had bot monitors. We had 10 bot monitors for every 2 bots. And so the efficiency curve was upside down. And just imagine this world now where you're at, as you noted, it has such power, the context is probably the word I use the most when we're talking about all these capabilities, is that, just like you said there, that, something that can contextualize and understand what's being ingested, the context of how it's being applied. And so when we talk about AI, for instance, in insurance, we've got to be very specific about how we quantify both what the context is, the value that the context
Hmm.
delivers us. And that's a massive difference when asking ChatGPT to draft an email versus deploying AI that can autonomously contextually review, say, a commercial property submission and other facets.
Yeah, totally. And the one piece too, you mentioned earlier, like you get to this, while it's both powerful, but it can hallucinate. Everybody at this point
Yes.
understands the concept of hallucination, I believe.
Mhm.
But when you get into these riskier domains, like the stakes get higher, right?
Yes.
And the problem, I think, a lot of times is AI is great at giving a very plausible answer that sounds very good. I equate it to my 9-year-old daughter. She's getting very good at saying things that seem right. Now I'm like, are you telling me the truth or what? I don't know. How do you think about that? Because obviously guardrails come into play and things like that. Because if you get something wrong in the insurance underwriting space, that's not good. So
No,
it's,
absolutely. Yeah. And I have four children. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and the
yeah,
conviction at which they can tell it,
yeah,
it does, it makes you question. And just like the hallucination, when you start talking about that, even the hallucination, how it's getting so convincing and
hmm,
so such conviction. I've even seen fake URLs that look
yeah,
absolutely believable. And
totally.
yeah. And so when you start thinking about how you approach this, you've got to be able to, and maybe a place to start is the clarification between agentic AI and being very purpose built for, say, underwriting and claims or
Hmm.
enterprise document ingestion or enterprise adoption, being
Yeah.
able to give it a specific set of goals that are very intently defined around, say, underwriting and claims, in contrast to that just very general, here's an answer, Dad, that you see. And then, of course, is an analogy for what you can just the general GPTs and LLMs.
Yeah. And I think that's the key thing, like you were hitting on earlier. And I'm guilty of this too. When I see OpenAI, Manus, Claude, Perplexity, they're coming out with these cool general purpose agents that can like order Uber Eats for you.
Yeah.
But but it's not purpose built for what you're doing. And I think there's two angles to this. A, general purpose is cool. It can do a lot of things. But if you want it to do something specific, your error rate, your blast radius, whatever you want to call it, is wide.
Hmm.
Versus like with us, when we talk about agentic AI automating things, the more confined you can make the process, the workflow, the thing you're doing, the better, right?
Right.
Because then you have more control over this probabilistic system and you can add in additional guardrails and things like that. But I think that's the key. And I'd be curious, like y'all are starting to build some agents, agentic solutions around underwriting claims, things like how have y'all approached that being built in this kind of purpose built fashion versus let me go grab OpenAI ChatGPT off the shelf?
Yeah, no. So we started with maybe reverse engineering, maybe too fancy, but if you think about the knowledge worker today, because it's something we should level set maybe from the beginning, we see that there's going to always, for now, for the foreseeable future, be an expert human underwriter, claims
Yeah.
examiner, claims adjuster there at the console that's made better by this. So we approach it from a skills assessment and we look at this, and if there's 25 skills of an underwriter, we look and say, what do we believe is best served by entry level work? What's maybe a mid
Mm,
kind of complex work, and what's highly skilled, highly specialized work? And so we've taken that approach and then we've unpacked it to then go in. And so if we're talking about this maybe in the real world about a commercial underwriting application, traditionally that underwriter might spend 60 to 70% of their time gathering data, validation, pulling information from
mhm.
submissions, checking against loss runs, looking at validating property details. Let's just for a second imagine the old world that didn't have this capability. We didn't need highly specialized colleagues and staff to do that. So we came up with things like OCR. Maybe we had different
Mhm.
data centers that are just input only. And that's how we've approached it, Matt, in the context of those lower, and now we're moving from lower to mid skill kind of skill sets to then automatically extract data from, say, unstructured submissions, cross-reference that against maybe multiple data sources simultaneously. And that's how we've approached to bring the value. Because the other thing that we've got to emphasize here, the cool is there, the fascination is there, but it all means nothing if we don't quantify the value from the start of what it brings to the
Mm.
organization. Just like our maybe our offshore data entry strategies or our offshore underwriting strategies, we've got to have that value from day one. And that's also something we keep top of mind at Appian.
Yeah, and you hit on a really interesting point there, starting with the skills and breaking that down. I hadn't thought about it in that fashion, because then you can make it more composable from
Yeah.
there. But I don't know about you, but I feel half the time executives, prospects we're talking with, they come to us and they say, I want an AI agent. And you're
Yes.
like, great, that's awesome. And then the
Yeah.
next question
Give,
is, what
give
do
me
you
some
want
of
the
that
agent to
AI.
do?
That's
I
right.
don't know. And so what is, because I'm sure you get this too, and you're obviously in more of the C-suite, but there's a lot of the top-down pressure from the boardroom, from executives saying we need AI, and the
Yes.
people doing the work are like, great, but what do you want to do? Talk about that kind of working backwards. You hit on it a little bit, starting with the skills, but how do you go to actually the workflows and the processes and things like that, and
Yes.
identify, okay, what's a good case for automating something with AI versus not, to
Yeah.
kind of that
Great,
human in the
great
loop
question.
element you mentioned.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on this. First of all, at Appian, we believe that AI belongs best inside of a process. And we've
Mm,
been referring to them, especially in the agentic capability, as an AI worker. When you put AI to work with the AI worker in a process, say underwriting, your connected underwriting solution or connected claims in our claims solution, that agentic underwriting agent or that agentic claims agent goes to work for you, you quantify the value. The second aspect of this, you nailed it. We have seen the board, as they should, put a tremendous amount of pressure on the C-suite to really be able to bring AI. They see it in their personal lives, they see the search engine, they're blown away, but then they see how these other companies, and there's some fantastic companies and fantastic results out there of how they're
mhm.
achieving it. And I don't want to pick on a industry, but I just highlight it. The life industry, for instance, has been slower to adopt, and that's okay. So more conservative,
Yeah.
but we literally have examples where we will have organizations that we've gone into 6, 8 weeks ago that said, do not bring AI in. We do not want to discuss it. If you have your workbench, we want you to be able to give us a toggle to shut everything AI
Mm,
off, what nothing to do with that stuff.
yeah,
And then 3 or 4 weeks later, they've called us back and said, hey, the board can't get AI fast enough. And it's just been really fascinating because if you start to look at those organizations, and we all know tech debt, and this is built on
mm,
decades of legacy old systems. But if you think about if you're not doing something today, just imagine how fast things are moving, what a year looks like, much less 2 or 3 when you get around to really getting your comfort and setting a pace, just how much further you're going to be behind. And I don't say that
mm,
as a shock. I say that as a practical C-suite leader. If you aren't
yeah,
embracing and comfortable and understanding, and then, and at some point, like if time permits here, it'd be great to talk about the culture because the culture has to also be flexible and
yeah,
adaptive. If you've got older culture, you've got to really be focused on that too. But long
yeah.
answer, but that's how we're approaching it.
Yeah, and let's get into, because the Blockbuster versus Netflix analogy's been used
It's
a
a great one.
ton,
Yeah.
but like that was very vertical in terms of that disruption. AI
Yes.
is everything. It's horizontal. It's
It's
every
horizontal and deep.
domain
Yeah.
function. It's like diagonal. It's going three-dimensional in a sense. But you mentioned earlier that apprehension. You mentioned life. I don't know if those life insurances or life science specifically, but
Life insurers. Yeah.
yeah. So what do you see as the biggest apprehension? Like, if you've been able to dig into like why people are apprehensive there, what are the key things or
Yeah.
reasons?
Yeah. There's kind of several consistencies. One is just understanding what it is and what it
Mm,
isn't. And we've seen some horror
yeah.
stories out there. We've had maybe they've had a board member or a C-level leader that have had maybe an interaction. And I have one of time permits I can share. I have a car that has a croc inside of it. And industry leader, I started asking questions about life insurance, and the hallucination was epic. So maybe they've had
Oh
something like
yeah. I
that's
want to hear
informed
about
their
that.
view. Yeah. But I think it starts with that. It also starts with the fear. Your staff, your organization, as you should be loyal to your people and your organization. There's this fear maybe of, hey, maybe I don't need a third of my organization, as
Hmm.
well as then the technical complexity that goes with it. You have to do it. We advocate for what we call private AI, which is AI that stays inside of your organization. It benefits from the outside models. Yet in Appian's capacity, it stays inside of our platform as a service. So all that data stays resident in their four walls. Even within certain regions, you can define that through our partnerships with AWS for hosting. So I think in summary, it's maybe just the lack of understanding as well as the maybe change is hard. And so risk
Yeah.
averse or change averse organizations, it's tough to come in and just say, yeah, let's just put rocket fuel on change and go from being maybe a waterfall organization that was very comfortable with a slow pace. Maybe they've made millions, frankly, and You've got
Hmm.
good risk postures, good profitability. Why change it if it ain't broken kind of thing? And
Yeah.
contrast to the modern insurer must adopt these new capabilities to stay relevant, to stay profitable, to be around for the next generation.
Yeah. And you mentioned the change management side of it. 'Cause I think so many companies and executives and IT teams, they kind of say, okay, we've given you enterprise Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever. All right, we're good. And then month two later, why is nobody using this thing? Because
Yes.
it's change management more than anything, because you have to learn a new way of working with these tools and capabilities. Because most people stop at about making it or using it to help improve your email or something like that. But that's
Mhm.
like the tip of the iceberg. Any thoughts? And this is to that culture point. How do you bring the organization along with you? The obvious thing is, oh, let's show them use cases. But sometimes that is, you get the fizzle or it's the excitement and then they go back to the
Yeah.
old way. Any
No, for
thoughts
sure.
around that aspect of it?
Well, it's the human element of it, right? And so
Yeah.
when
Because
we
humans
think
don't like
about
change, right? We're risk averse in general. That's in our nature.
exactly, you're not right. Tech. I love change, but then at the same time, I'm like, I don't really know if I want to change this. It's working pretty, and it does. It forces you to change. And when we start, especially with the replacement fear, right? When we think about
Yeah.
how we, from the Appian leadership side and our industry domain team, we say that AI is not replacing underwriters or claims examiners and adjusters. Yet anyone that you may hear that tells you that it is, either they're naive about insurance or they're trying to sell you something. But AI is it's fundamentally changing what those roles focus on, and it's increasing their effectiveness at unprecedented levels. And so, if you put together an AI adopter, or if you put together a small group, and when I was in one of my senior technology roles, I like to pick individuals in the organization that thrived on change, as well as those that
Hmm.
absolutely avoided it. And that way, you've got a good, diverse mix. And we've seen time and
Mm.
again that bringing these colleagues along, letting them have a say in understanding it, they know the market deeply, they know the relationship, all the different things that make them successful as an organization. Now, how can you bring that AI to work in a process with them as a focus group? And then we see organizations that will compare and contrast those that are using the application versus those that are not. And again, I'm being fully transparent to a fault here. We have seen time and again that approach allows them to really rise up and show and leverage that AI and process the value, get rid of that administratively burdensome work, give it
Yeah.
guardrails. And it's not perfect every time. And that's the point because you can continue to tune it. But those colleagues that are helping influence that in almost an AI steering committee kind of capacity are winning far greater than those that are forcing it top down, expecting that you and I are just
Mm.
going to soak up change like that when in fact we don't.
Yeah, totally. I always go back to the Shopify, the memo that got leaked, and then the Shopify CEO said, "I'm just going to put it out there."
Hmm.
And the key thing that's just stuck with my in my brain since I've read it is this term called reflexive AI. And it's basically where it becomes reflexive, just like a reflex when you go to do something, you're not thinking, "Oh, do I use AI?" Just like you wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm going to use electricity today." It just is second nature.
That's right.
And the other point was he mentioned the best way to learn AI is by using AI a lot.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people have this artificial barrier of I'm not technical or I got to do all this things before I start. No, just start playing with it is the best way to start incrementally building over time.
Exactly. I mean, you take that, and who best to do that than those colleagues that are there? And we see time and again the nobility of the industry, whether it be a domain underwriter, whether it be a claims examiner. Don't
Hmm.
forget at the end of the day, yes, we talk about it in terms of profit and loss and everything, but don't forget about this is a human life that we've insured and a family that we've helped provide for, or this is
Hmm.
a large commercial undertaking, a property that we've provided our business for disruption or workers' compensation. So if you come from that place, which everybody eventually does, and you figure out what parts of the role are better served with this incredible capability we have in front of us, then let them drive. Let them
Yeah.
drive. You bring your architects, you bring everybody, put some safety switches in there, put some different temperature controls to dial it up and dial
Hmm.
it down. And that's something that's working exceptionally well.
Yeah. You mentioned the fear of the job loss piece too, but what I always go back to is like the to-do list of things that you are never able to get to is so long. There's always more things to do, and this is only going to enable you to do more of those things. And back to the Shopify memo, he mentioned too that a lot of his people were accomplishing with AI things that he never thought possible. They're pointing AI after these big, hairy, audacious
Hmm.
things that not only did they not have time for, but they were big and large, which I think is just an interesting point as well. Like, how can I
It,
work with
it's
AI versus it being like this competing force?
that's right. And if you look at that BHAG approach to say to the organization, I want you to straight through process without sacrificing profitability,
Mm-hmm.
relationship. We can't change any of that. But I want you to increase straight through process by 50%, 80%. I had a claims leader that we talked to this week for one of Australia's largest insurers that said, I want 100% straight through process all claims. So now, is that a reality?
Mm-hmm.
No. And this person knows this. Yet aspirationally, if we approach the business with that innovative mindset every day about how we're going to leverage AI, how we're going to use it inside of a process, the human AI partnership model, where we can take all that data intensive, repetitive task, shove all of that into the generative agents, then we just get that much better every day. And this organization has such a phenomenal execution culture. And this leader in particular is just doing incredible things with our organization because they realize that this is how you can approach it. That sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get to 40%, 60%, 70%, that's strides that are just massive.
I think it interesting too that a lot of people set such a high bar and expectation for AI. It cannot be wrong, right? But if you're comparing it to a human doing the same thing, what is that failure rate? So I think a lot of times folks need to almost take a logical step back and say, okay, in whatever process it may be, maybe we have 85% success rate with a human or 95%, there's some 5% that's wrong. That should almost be the baseline that you're working towards versus perfect. Because if you're trying to get perfection, I know you mentioned it earlier, but on the flip side, if you try to get perfection, you may never start. I think it's like
Yes.
perfection as the forcing function's good, but if perfection prevents you from actually leaving the starting line, then it's like counterproductive as well.
Yes, this comes up often where we'll hear a lot of, oh, yeah, we have our AI strategy. We're working to cleanse our data and we're going to
Hmm.
get that started in insert timeline here. It's never less than 6 months.
Yeah.
Most of them are like behind the scenes, hey, it's 12 to 18 months. And
Yeah.
that's just, fundamentally flawed in the sense that, yeah, from our perspective, we're full agile and iterative where progress is far better than perfection, right? And one of our founding company values is to really focus on progress and not perfection, because the second that you move that forward, even 1%, you're 1% better than you were yesterday. And one of the biggest mistakes that we see is that we're going to spend 18 months building the perfect data strategy. Then we'll implement AI. Meanwhile, their
Hmm.
competitors are behind the scenes. They're extracting value from imperfect data using guardrails to maintain
Yep.
integrity. And it's that whole learn. And the other thing that's incredible about this, by the way, and your audience gets it likely when you or I, as an underwriter, let's say, you're expert, maybe I'm junior up and coming, we both benefit the model by when our knowledge contributes to that, in contrast to today's environment where maybe I
Mhm.
have to be shoulder to shoulder with you. Maybe I have to go and do training and enrichment versus the model. Every minute gets better. And then we
Mhm.
all benefit from that. And that's where, but in summary, that iterative approach just can't be emphasized enough. Yes, it's siloed. Yes, it's been there. Yes, it's had quality issues. It's going to have quality. Like you said, today we don't just close the doors and time out because somebody made a mistake. We coach, we recover, we learn, we put controls in, and we move
Yeah.
on. And that's what's critical in this.
Mention the data side because data is the most critical thing with any system you're building. So there is the high bar there. But AI is also really good at working with unstructured data and making
Yes.
sense of things too. So you have this new weapon in a sense that can handle unstructured data versus like perfectly structured databases and things like that.
Absolutely. If you think about what makes your best colleagues or your up and coming, it's their access to the data. Oftentimes we see that
Hmm.
the systems don't complement them. It's their willingness and it's their swivel chair and everything that they do to overcome those challenges. And so then now put on there the AI guardrails. get a practical starting point, start with high volume, low complexity processes. And a lot of times those have already been automated with something else. So now let's move into the mid complex processes or pick a mission critical process that's very
Hmm.
complex. The point is get started so you can train and improve the models quickly. And then it's representative. Disparate data exists. Appian as a company, we have what we call data fabric. We sit across the top of those disparate sources. We leave the data where it's at. We virtualize it
Hmm.
in session. And that's what gives you the speed, the scale, and that's what makes AI incredible is access to all of that, just like your best colleague. But they don't
Hmm.
take breaks. They don't have quality errors. You set those guardrails and then put their ROI metrics around it so that the board can see transparently, the AI early adopters can see transparently. And that's how you just start to have those iterative wins and you just move on and repeat.
Yeah, let's go deeper on that. So, and
Sure.
you mentioned it earlier, like this build versus buy equation process, however you want to say it, is it's changing with the introduction of AI, and you get many enterprises that are being pushed to these all-in-one ecosystems like Microsoft Copilot as an
Mhm.
example, or things like that, where it's everything Microsoft, which has benefits, but then there's also downsides as well. But I'm just curious, how do you think about those trade-offs? Because you have the kind of that clear strategy you just mentioned in terms of having that optionality while still having that security. But what does that trade-off look like? And then how do you see build versus buy
Yes.
changing with everything going on?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting contrast, right? Because you see a lot of organizations that have this preference for build and
Hmm.
nobody knows our business better, which directionally I would agree with you. Yet also, spoiler alert, you're not the unicorn you think you are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just you've got to have the ability to be flexible without giving up your brand focus, any of your secrets that have made you successful. And when we look at the build versus buy, especially in the context of agentic agents, there's this dangerous misconception that we're seeing already that you can just plug in a general LLM, you can just do magic things with it. It solves your business
Hmm.
problem. And that's just couldn't be further from the truth. And that's why, especially when you're talking about then dialing in the complexity. Again, if you have low complex work, you're probably doing it either with the cloud-based core admin systems. You've got some sort of workarounds today that we're talking about higher complexity work that is, especially when it has multiple processes in it and highly regulated work, right? This is all regulated. Don't look past that. So that's how, our approach to the Bill of Rights contrasts because some organizations, maybe they're just not where they need to be, but we pack a tremendous amount of value into our offering. It's pre-built. And again, kind of going back to that structured approach where we look at the value, we look at the return on investment. The other thing that's incredible here is the time. So when we look at, if we were to gather requirements, typically 7 to 10 days, and we put out an enterprise hardened application with typically 1 to 3 integrations, that's 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, we're talking less than 90 days to go from your current state to a reimagined future state that is typically 30 to 50% increase, and those ROIs are paying back within 6 months or less. It's incredible that way.
How much of Appian's engagements and projects and things you're doing with customers are out of the box versus customized to your customer? How to
Yeah, I'd say 70-30. So 70% are
Yeah.
buying pre-built underwriting, pre-built claims, 30%, especially around areas of highly bespoke products, maybe
Hmm.
reinsurance or other areas. The market really wants that pre-built intention. And it's good that way because you can take all of the collective knowledge and invest in investments that we've made so you can de-risk the project, those accelerated timelines. So if you are an organization that's maybe waited a little longer, or the other one, just to pick on it for a second, is the RFP process. Hey, we're
Oh
going to go
man.
out and RFP and we're going to take 18 months. Now, again, and I don't want to poke and
Yeah.
I don't want to seem dismissive. It has its place and I appreciate, and sometimes we will see that's because of maybe a prior decision that was made that had
Yep.
catastrophic consequences. So again, I don't want to look past it yet. At the same time, put your top three in the room and let them sit there and build on their own product and show you. We have a process we call
Hmm.
5 by 5. We get together every day over 5 days and we build and we come back and show, build, show, but let three vendors do that because I will quickly help you assess who's vaporware and who's made tens of millions in
Hmm.
investments like we have in pre-built products. And that's where it just helps you rise above. So we really realize the bake off when we get there, especially
Yeah.
with some of our competitors out there with the hype machines. You can really start to sort out those that are doing it and those that are talking about doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. At this day and age, I feel like 95% of RFPs are being written and filled out by AI at this point, which actually is a decent use case if you give it sufficient context to fill it out.
Yes.
But and I bet you people are now writing their RFPs, the form itself with AI. So it's like, just let them go
Yes.
talk,
But
figure it out.
and to your point, if you flip that and you say, how could maybe a smaller procurement organization, maybe an organization that maybe hasn't had experience doing this, how could you take the best of collective industry? Yet, and it comes that action step. That's the piece
Hmm.
that maybe it's just don't be afraid to, and again, you're not going to make $100 million misstep. You're gonna
Hmm.
learn from it. And that's the thing you just have to challenge. And that's where, again, getting back to having the input and the buy-in from the organization, having a defined goal. A lot of the work that we do, we have this workshop that we call the future of industry, the future of underwriting, future of claims,
Hmm.
future of broker, customer experience. And one of the favorite things that we bring in is it's systems thinking, design thinking, and it's really helping the organization reimagine what that future state looks like. And
Hmm.
it's incredible because you come in, you first part of the day, you see the posture, it's room's tight, you're just uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Later that afternoon, it's, oh, this is intriguing. And then the next day we come in and we present back, and it's incredible to see the organization really just, oh, what if we, listen,
Yeah.
yeah, take that as a set of requirements. If you want to go off PIP, great. But that's also great as a springboard to then just go build, get started.
Hmm.
You're not doing it cursory, you're not doing it rushed, you're doing it methodically in the context of your use case and the value that goes with it. Yeah.
That's a good segue. So I am curious, like, what do you see the future of insurance? And it's a broad topic, but what do you see happening to it over time related to AI? Do you see any fundamental changes happening, call it 5, 10 years down the road? And that's a very, I think anything 10 years down the road is almost impossible to answer. But do you see
Yes.
anything that you think will fundamentally change or you would like to see
Yeah.
fundamentally change in the industry?
Certainly. Let me tackle this with, I'm a cups glasses always half full. I'm an
Yeah.
optimist eternally, but I also say that these are not rose-colored glasses. So I
Hmm.
believe in Appian where we sit, we believe that when we look at the aspiration of say hyper personalized products, or if you
Hmm.
look at distribution methods, again, start with the place of we need to get more life insurance into the populations. We need to go into markets that are underdeveloped, or we need to have better risk insights so that profitability isn't strained, or we need to create
Hmm.
capacity in markets. So if we come from that place, what we're excited about is how access to these sources of data, the ability to create these hyper personalized products in a heavily regulated environment. Don't sacrifice regulation. Don't go fast just to go fast. So for us, we believe that this is the exciting part of the industry and the organizations. And by the way, you were stripping out a lot of overhead in the tech stack along the way here that's just going to make
Hmm.
this perpetual cycle. And so if you look at some of the organizations or companies that are embedding insurance today, whether it be in a new vehicle you're buying or whether it be in different products you're buying, that's the future state that we're excited about and excited to be part of, frankly. I was recently in Japan working with a life insurer there, reimagining distribution. A lot of life insurance is sold in
Hmm.
Japan at kiosks at the airport. If you contrast this example as a use case where, working with an elevator or a lift, you get on the first floor, the elevator knows that you're going to the 33rd floor. It knows the average travel is X. So I've got this, and they're trying to present offer of term life. And so the
Hmm.
elevator has onboard controls. If it's a solo rider, it can determine the weight. It has an elevator marketing system. So it could present you attestation questions, boom, boom. It's a quick form process. Scan the QR code. And
Hmm.
now, if you pull back and look at all of the different disparate systems that I just very easily conjectured together, that's very complex. Yet that use case is something very simple that we're able to do today. It's just
Yeah.
often limited by either the return on the value, the complexity from a regulation perspective. And so in summary, that's where we're excited as far as how this just continues to accelerate all of the IoT devices that we continue to see innovators bring together, and just that faster, heavily adopted future that's even more exciting from the space.
Yeah, that's a nuanced, like, decision-making capabilities and pattern matching, I think, in a lot of
Mhm.
ways too, that are just super interesting in terms of where it can go. But Jake, it's been awesome having you on the Talking AI podcast. Anything that we should look out for with Appian with in the underwriting or claim space? Any future roadmap stuff you can give us that you're allowed to say? There's stuff to watch out
Yeah, I'll
for.
say no forward-looking statements if we get to the statement
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, you can expect from us the innovation, the vision. So we continue to invest. We're growing significantly, yet we're also being intentional about that growth as it relates to bringing value inside of the process. You saw this from us previously with our incredible depth with workflow and case management. You see it now with us with our agentic agent studio. We've
Mhm.
done just a massive amount of work with what we call AI document center so that you can bring document center across the enterprise. Use cases
Mm.
maybe had outsourced or third parties. Those are right there, right inside of that. You can expect that innovation from us, domain specific. So when we look at some of our recent hires, we're bringing in former C-level, very successful C-level leaders from, say, the MGA side that are now helping lead our product creation. Partnerships with system integrators. We have partnerships that like to highlight those like with Swiss Re Magnum Life Rules is built inside of our Appian connected underwriting. We have a fantastic partnership with Guidewire on the P&C side for their policy claims and billing
Mm.
systems. Pre-built APIs because when you get to those conversations with the carriers, we want to have those paths created so that they can very rapidly adopt. But in summary, I just want to say thank you, but you can expect more from us as it relates to the innovation in this space, especially the agentic AI capability that we're bringing inside of our solutions, connected R and connected claims as we continue to help insurers overcome these obstacles and put AI to work for them and their organizations.
No, I love it. That's very cool. And where can people find you and find Appian? What's the best way to reach out?
Appian.com is the easiest. You can reach out to me personally at sloan@appian.com. And you'll see us at any of the major trade shows. So we just wrapped up with InsurTech Connect. That's our anchor event. We do a lot of the regional events. And you also find us on LinkedIn as well. We're easy to connect with.
Very cool, Jake. Thanks for talking some AI.
Awesome. Good to see you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Talking AI podcast. If you enjoyed the show, give us a follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to leave us a review. We love those. For more info on Talking AI, visit talkingaipodcast.com.